and we stopped frig.
We stopped what?
You stopped a frigate?
All right, nobody.
pretty hard to do.
I'm testing the stream right now. Nobody
at
curse. Oh, don't shh. I need to hear it to test it, but nobody curse. Okay.
Did I curse?
Okay. Nobody curse. Okay. Okay. I'm just saying.
Avada Kedavra!
What?
You bought a what?
Dang it.
I bought a Cordova.
Kansas,
What's
a
a
rest
Cordova?
stop. And there was a pamphlet that said, we're trying...
cadaver?
I bought a cadaver. There you go.
Terrible.
Yes, you may or may not have said
sell.
that online. Somebody may have heard you say, "I bought a cadaver."
Oh,
You're getting in trouble.
Amor Pizza says.
Well,
Somebody
we're on?
chat it out when it starts.
We're up?
Oh, okay.
Get out of
Will
my purple. There you got him. I'm awesome.
Sorry.
What is that noise?
Vibrations entering your ear. Duh.
That's not what the noise is. That's just how it manifests itself.
Rat.
The noise is not in his ear.
I'm
unless
not
it's
hitting you. I'm just hitting
Wow.
what manifests you.
That sounds like fun. Can I try it? Ow! Not as much fun.
Free to the public.
All right.
So, is the test complete?
Yeah.
F.
Yeah.
0.
And we're live. Thanks so much for tuning in on time. Last week, we had such a late start with the crowd coming in. It's nice to see several of you in there already. I am your host. Hold on. Right, Matt. I always get these wrong. Joining me is Left Matt, as well as back from his temporary absence, the disembodied, slightly re-embodied, testing out his new body, the disembodied, re-embodied voice of Joe.
Good evening. Nice to be here.
It is nice to have you. It is nice to have you. Once again, I have put tonight's topics down in the description. So, in case both of them just looked at the description, what are we talking about? I have recently decided not to tell them what we're talking about, so that it's a surprise, and I get real reactions. Sometimes it's bad because we get reactions. Sometimes we get reactions like this. Oh, I have no response to that. I don't know. We will find out tonight whether that's a good.
That coming from under the bus.
Oh!
First hand.
Hey! What do you expect me to do? They count on our pure honesty. So I'm just saying. If tonight is boring, it is my fault and no one else's.
Okay, I can agree to that.
I am legally.
I can second it. The motion passes.
Hold on a sec. Let me banish this voice of Joe for a moment.
Ah, good.
Whew, he's gone. I am legally
Creeping me out.
bound or responsible to tell you that this show is in no way endorsed by, sponsored by, or affiliated with The Goonies, not the movie, but the people, the group, The Goonies. I have this shirt for no reason. I've never actually seen the movie. I don't know if it's any good. I cannot recommend it.
It's one of my all-time faves.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's great.
You're lying.
It's good.
You're lying to me.
It's obvious. Like towards the beginning, there's a scene where they like go down the go down the basement steps towards some cellar in some spooky old house in the mountains, and then they like stir up a bunch of bats, and the bats all fly up and they like fly out the chimney of the house, but they go like past the kids, they like flutter all against them and like go against them, and they go up the chimney, and then it shows there's one kid talking to the scary adults in the upstairs. Bats come up, and they're like obviously just like some of them are just like hanging on strings, like swinging back and forth.
Really?
Oh, the bats are on strings.
Yeah, and then in another scene at the end, like to make it dramatic, he's like, "No, I'm not going to sign this. That would, I forget,
Make life better for the
sell
universe.
some asset that the neighborhood likes having," and then he like rips it up and throws it in the air. And then if you
He rips up the asset?
no, not the
That is
asset.
what was it they wanted that was
I don't
rippable?
remember what. No, it was.
Or would you call it terrible? Keep going. I
And like,
derailed with
obviously
bad
a bunch
pun.
of like paper shreds come from behind him and like fill the air.
He throws it like a confetti can.
Yeah, it's basically yeah.
Well, what do you expect? That's why I haven't seen it.
Spielberg. That's what I expect.
Was it really? It was a Spielberg film?
Yeah.
I say
Still
was because
is.
it's dead. The Goonies is dead. They never say die, but doesn't mean it doesn't happen.
Samwise Gamgee when he was like a kid.
I will never understand that expression. We never say die. I do when I'm fighting somebody I don't like. I just shout it at the top of my lungs. Die! Like I don't know why that sounds like. No one being defeated is like die, I give up, die. Makes no sense to me. The eyes on that are hysterical. Yes, we seek to find new bodies for Joe, and we seem to have found one. Let me see that.
The eyes on that.
Yeah,
That has a name, you know. Disembodied voice of Joe.
yeah. It's like
Well,
it's like
the
an
avatar.
It's like an elf on the shelf, but it's a slug. Is it a snail or a slug? It's a slug. There's no.
Ew.
It's a jolly
Looks
slug.
slug-like.
Happy to have a body again.
Joe,
All
cross your eyes. Cross your eyes, Joe, if you can. Bummer.
That's the best I can do.
I was hoping to get some of the Moana, Disney, copyright the Moana crab thing.
Yeah, I have stopped hitting. I noticed we are not popular enough to actually
Trigger.
to monetize.
Oh.
But
Oh, yeah,
I
10,000.
monetized before they changed it to if you have less than 1,000 subscribers, then you don't get to monetize. So like I was grandfathered in
Nice.
technically, but it's like your revenue 0,0,0,0,0. So I'm not actually. I just get to check the box and they get to play ads,
Good.
but I don't get any of it. And if we get a not a DMC, yeah, DMC. I don't know. Copyright strike. It's not really a strike.
Run DMC.
Disney last week's views. Disney got the credit. They got all the money for the. You're welcome. You don't need it. They don't need it, but they got it anyway. But that's okay. So I didn't even monetize this one because you know what, Disney.
We're doing this legitimately, bona fide, from the bottom of our heart, just for our audience. Is that what this is?
Why can your brain not put the disembodied voice of Joe? She doesn't like your new body.
Aww.
You gotta talk really high. Talk like a snail. Does that help? More pizza?
I can't get over
Today is a good day. Hold on a sec. Hold on. Oh no! I forgot I'm not in studio
Nice.
mode.
Thanks for joining us, folks. That'll be it. That's a wrap,
Hey, at least it wasn't the
folks.
goodbye one. That'd be funny. I changed it to goodbye. Everybody just logs on. Well, that was an abrupt ending. They hung up on us. Hold on. Here we go.
That was a what?
Here we go. Abrupt ending.
Ah.
Why are you You're translucent. Oh. No, you're transparent. Translucent. I don't know. He's trans. He's trans. You'll just call him trans.
That's terrible.
Why is
That
that
could
terrible?
be mistaken.
This is 2017.
Oh.
I did not mean to misgender you. Good thing we're not in Canada. Speaking of which,
Canada.
perfect segue. As much as I love a good
We're from
segue.
Candua.
I love it. Gotta love it. Okay, did you get that email I sent you?
Yes.
Oh, for sure.
This has nothing to do with the
definitely
show.
got
I'm just
that.
curious if you're getting my emails. Okay.
You mean the first one?
Last week we were going to talk about this. I'm going to save it for last so we'd like spend all our time on it, but we spent all our time on something else. And we talked about robotics instead. Apparently, none of the avatars that we've had for the disembodied voice of Joe work. We will keep looking.
This is the best one, I think.
This is the best one.
Really
we're
like
still
it.
on you and nothing
How
else.
did he get that on himself? What arms will he use to get anything out of that basket? You see my point?
His eyeballs.
That's
He's
weird.
sticky all over. He just kind of sticks his little side of his eyeball against it.
Can you demonstrate how one might do that?
That looks painful. Hold on. We're just gonna transition back. You can suffer on the
We're
shelf.
transitioning back.
Wait, how is it you can see Joe? Has Amor Pizza ever met Joe? Her mind's eye is watching us, guys. Watch out. Okay, so the email I sent you, was that the right one? It was. It was the right one. So there are some links in there to time codes. If you could... Let's try this. Bring up... Okay, now I can't find it. This is not working out so well. One moment. There it is. Here we go. All right. The beginning. It should say "Call me Mark" after that first one.
Right here.
I don't.
So you want the first one?
Hold on a moment. I lost your screen. Here it is. Yes. Try muting your screen, bringing it up, and then pausing it, because every time we click a link to bring up a video, it's like starts talking, and then I pause it, and I'm like, hold on. When an actor, okay, Amor Pizza is still not sold on the new body of the voice of Joe. When an actor really well known voices it, I see the character, I see the actor instead of the character, and the character just looks like I'm watching a cartoon in a different language. The mouth is all out of sync. That's why I do not IMDb the cast of animated films. The one that I know who it does, and it still doesn't get me, is Megamind.
Megamind. Yeah.
Yes! Megamind. It is not your typical... It's not like, hey, and here's Will Ferrell doing his normal Will Ferrell shtick with a different body. It's a whole different character. It's a different voice. Very pleased with the I don't know, the job his job. Very good. Very happy with how he did that job.
Performance.
Yeah.
Very
That
well
was
said.
great.
Thank you. The performance he turned in. Dang nabbit. That's why I keep you around. Very pleased
For
with the
those
performance he
one
turned
word
in.
interjections.
Yep.
What's that one word I need?
Can you go ahead and full screen that so I can pop it over? Alrighty, let's get going. First topic of the evening is a bit...
One second.
It will take... Oh no, now people can see your computer.
Just look at that.
What?
Who could be against... Well, when it gets up on the screen. Like, what if I said, I'm going to write a bill to protect people from kicking puppies? It's like, if also in that bill, it also said, all of Matt's cool shirts with skulls on them belong to me. And if they don't fit them, I'm not even going to wear it. If I don't fit them, I'm not even going to wear them. I'm just going to throw them away.
The easiest way to break the law is to make it legal. So, yes. Okay, so a little background. This is a Senate hearing in Canada from their Senate where Dr. Jordan Peterson, who is a huge advocate for, opponent. Huge. He opposes this bill. My words this evening. He opposes Bill C-16 because Bill C-16, which, as you just said, extends protection against hate propaganda.
I'm against that. Like, who could
In
say that
regard to
politically?
gender identity or expression. If you were here a couple weeks ago when we pointed out the modern understanding and the decided science, the definitive science about gender expression, it's based on nothing but feelings. And so now in Canada, they have decided to enshrine in law the idea of gender expression being subjective. And more specifically, what Dr. Peterson is objecting to is the fact that misgendering someone who decides to use an alternative gender, not he or she, but they or z and zer, there is a long list of them. Those are the only ones that I remember because
There's another one, Matt.
Yeah.
It's just another one. That's me. I would
they,
like to be called
they
Matt.
melted. My brain melted out halfway through reading that list, but there's 70 something of them. And apparently, if you intentionally do not use these genders when referring to someone, is what they say, these gender pronouns, which you don't use pronouns when referring to someone. You talk about someone.
How are they doing?
I don't use.
So
he
if you're
when
talking behind their back, did you hear what
Right?
Zim did?
Yeah. Well, if you were in a room and it's like, Joe,
Dib?
can you please grab his computer? Which for some reason is the example I always use. So if you don't do that correctly, they just this bill says that it falls under discrimination or like hate speech, and apparently there should be legal action taken against you according to the Human Rights Commission. So Dr. Peterson, has an issue with this and has since last September, and he testified, I believe this was 2 weeks ago, to say why this was a problem. Well, we're going to play some quotes of, these are senators from Canada trying to, questioning him and saying, well, what's really wrong with this? And here's some examples of him explaining very succinctly not only why this is a big deal, but why it's a big deal for like everyone. This seems like a weird thing for people to care about, which is why you don't hear a lot about this in the press. But this sets a very dangerous precedent in a lot of different areas. In Canada, for now, but let's go ahead and play from where we are there.
Whatever it would be.
Oh, did it play a bit?
I say, well,
It did play a bit, didn't it? That happens. All right,
Oh,
go back
they-
like 8-10 seconds. It is quiet again. Let me boost you.
there is nothing in the law that criminalizes or creates an offense to criticize the notion that identity is a social construct, which you
You need to turn it up a little more.
It is maxed everywhere. Is your YouTube player up all the way? Yeah, it is.
Next.
One moment.
What?
Play it again.
there is nothing in the law that criminalizes or creates an offense to criticize the notion that identity is a social construct, which you do to criticize the way in which words come into the language. Though modern Hebrew is an example of words coming in by fiat, and the Académie Française does it as well. Of course, Shakespeare gave us so much of our language. But there's nothing in this bill that stands in the way of you taking a principled position against all aspects of this, including your criticisms of the activists. The issue is the pronoun, and unless I'm reading it wrong, as Senator Pratt pointed out, the Ontario Human Rights Commission policy does not say that refusing to use a person's self-identified name or personal pronoun does constitute gender-based harassment. I may be wrong, but I believe it said it could. And I think that's a real difference. If I turn to you and say, look, please call me they, because that's how I see myself now, because it's hurtful for you to call me sir, or miss, whatever it would be, but you refuse. And I say, well, okay, if you're uncomfortable with that because you're not comfortable with that, call me Mark. And you refuse. Were you to continue to call me by the name that I'm telling you is hurtful to me, is that not, in fact, something that that the law can properly address? This is, you are knowingly hurting me. And in that respect, our courts ultimately, I think, are capable of striking a proper balance between people who slip up or who, for whatever reasons, just can't get the words out of their mouth, and those that persist in intentionally causing
Opportunity to respond.
Would you agree with my characterization?
Pause it
of
there a second.
A free speech as
Okay. So what he's saying is, if you're intentionally refusing to use made-up words that I made up because that's how I see myself, shouldn't the law be able to do something about your hurtful words?
Properly address the situation.
Yeah. Isn't that something the law should have a part in? You disrespecting me.
Why shouldn't it?
Should it?
It is all powerful.
I don't. Okay, he's making his case. I'm curious what you actually think.
Why couldn't if
Well, you can use an example of harassment.
the law is literally intended to prevent harm, and if these people are harming others,
Harming
then it seems
others.
like it could.
Well, that's the question. Do you think it's
Look, if you say
do you think
something
it's
that
actually hurtful?
befuddles me or makes my point look less clear, I'll punch you in the face.
what if I were to tell you that I thought I was an amazing painter?
Sounds nice.
And you were to say, you're the worst painter I've ever seen. And I would
man.
say, well, that's subjective.
yeah,
I am a really good painter according to me.
it's more of an opinion.
Okay?
I guess.
Yeah. And you were to say, well, no, you're a terrible painter.
I would.
And I would say,
insist.
stop saying hurtful things to me.
You would point at me.
You are I would, because I'm disrespectful back. That's being disrespectful to my truth, to my identity.
Nice.
Shouldn't the law be able to do something about you
Yeah.
being rude to me?
I would say only if it continues. Like
about-
if he told you that every single day, and you're like, go away. Like I want a restraining order or something.
You want a restraining order. The guy isn't following you around saying, he. You're talking to someone, and like I said, when you're talking directly to somebody, you don't say he, you say you.
Yeah.
Or you use the person's name. It would be when I'm talking to you about him.
It was funny when he was.
And I would say, hey, yeah, I don't know why Matt showed up so early tonight. And then he would be like, whoa, stop. I'm not he. Right?
yeah,
that
it does
kind
seem
of
like
thing.
kind of a
And if I kept using
rare
it,
circumstance.
rather than go to the law, don't you think you could just stop coming over?
Well, this
What if it's
maybe-
not voluntary?
maybe this is for like the workplace,
Yeah.
like
What if you're
supervisor.
locked?
Like I mean, if let's say my boss every day decided to call me her,
She?
yes, like that would get old after a while. Like, or some people might be really offended and like,
Right, but
I
Joe's.
want to do something about it. Is there something? Is like, if the company did not have such a policy,
question.
could you take that to the law?
What about that?
That's a good question. I don't.
It's for you too. The disembodied voice of Joe was looking directly at you. I saw with his ethereal eyes. Ethereal eyes.
Ethereal, there's different words.
Ethereal gaze.
Ethereal is like short lasting.
I don't know. I don't think so. That's going to derail real quick. I'm a big fan of words.
So yeah, what about that in the workplace?
Real
if
quick.
the company doesn't have the policy.
That's a very good question. Let's go to the chat. There
Good.
needs to be a distinction between
Cop-out.
emotional abuse that causes psychological damage in situations in which a person cannot escape said abuse and hurt feelings.
That sounds vague.
I
That
agree
would
with
help
that.
give this ... I'm assuming there's another... There it is. Argument, a scale on which to draw a line where a law could be written.
Is that what this guy is trying to say?
Aren't there already laws that are written though? I'm sure.
Well, that's
We're
not...
all like beating around the bush, but like there are laws that would prevent actual harm. Can we prosecute now people for Yelp reviews?
Yes. No, there are like harassment laws on the books already. They're just adding specifically to these alternative genders that are, coming up with these.
You say they're alternative. I say male and female are alternative.
That's a social constructionist postmodern point of view, and it holds no water here.
You're a Nazi.
Let me ask a similar question from the other side. What if I was working at a place and I said, Seth, when you refer to me to other people and you're referring to me, can you please say our Lord and King? Because that's how I see myself.
Sure.
And Seth said, Matt, not gonna call you that. All right? Yeah. Go fork some wings or something. Like,
I
right?
think so, yeah.
Do you think the law should be able to say, look, this is how he
Don't
sees
touch me.
himself? Sorry. I'm sorry. This is how he sees himself.
That's how Zim sees himself.
This is how our Lord and Savior sees our Lord and Savior self.
That's right.
Like, that's not what I said. I said, what did I say? Our Lord and King? I don't know. Our Master and King. Whatever it is.
Master and Commander. Whatever.
Yes, our Master and Commander. Since that is not a socially, a colloquially accepted, a historically, scientifically accurate and written down in the books thing, is it ridiculous for someone to say, I need you to do this made-up thing that I made up because I say you should? Which is different than your boss calling you her.
Yeah, it is.
Do you think we should honor people's subjective realities and made-up words if we find them to be unprofessional and ridiculous?
We could do it if everything was subjective.
No. Like I said,
is.
that's
And
a
everything is
postmodernist,
subjective.
social constructionist.
Like, what
point
is
of view.
work? You know?
I don't know. Look at thousands of years of history of people referring to work as the very same thing.
What is-
Different words, but if the concept is the same. It was not constructed
What is
by our
history,
society.
though? You have your version, I have my version.
There's my truth and your truth. Let's see what Dr. Peterson's survey says. All right, go ahead and play this.
Continue.
It
Yes.
applies to these issues.
Let me jump in just on the legal point.
Thank you.
After Dr.
Pause it a sec.
Peterson posed
This man is a lawyer, by the way. He's there with Dr. Peterson to. He didn't specify if he's representing him, but he's making the legal arguments against this bill. That's who that is.
his videos, and after he rose to the public consciousness, the Ontario Human Rights Commission deemed it fit to release a new policy document called Questions and Answers about Gender Identity and Pronouns, and in so doing, they said that refusing to refer to a trans person by their chosen name and a personal pronoun that matches their gender identity or purposely misgendering will likely be discrimination. So I think it's a little bit more certain than what you may have
Pause that.
indicated in your comment, but I'll allow Dr.
Okay, so in case you forgot, with our pausing between segments, the senator's argument was this says it could result in action if you do that, and what this gentleman just said was after Dr. Peterson read this legislation and released a video online saying this is what this means, this is what will happen about this. People are going to force you to say words. It's not freedom of speech. It's not freedom from offense. It's not things you can't say. It is things you must say. It is compelled speech.
Positive law.
It is compelled speech. That's where you're supposed to be, by the way. It's
Up close.
exactly and personal. He's saying since it's compelled speech, you will be you will get in trouble for it. Well, directly after that, the Human Rights Commission released a statement changing that language from could to likely will. Meaning, after he brought up his problem with it, they then felt the need to clarify and say, by the way, this is a likely thing, not a possible thing. Keep going.
Nate.
And once again, that policy was put out after Dr. Peterson began to speak on the issue, and so I think that's very telling that it was a response, if you will, to this issue that Dr. Peterson raised. I'm going to allow, obviously, Dr. Peterson to go ahead with the other element of your question.
Very briefly, sir.
Well, so I would say that the very idea that calling someone a term that they didn't choose causes them such irreparable harm that legal remedies should be sought, rather than regarding it as a form of impoliteness, that legal remedies should be sought, including potential violation of the hate speech codes, is an indication of just how deeply the culture of victimization has sunk into our society.
Okay.
Okay, pause it there. So essentially, he's just saying,
Stop being pansies.
well, yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
not. It's not simply because people are being harassed. It's because people are asking for special treatment. That's what that is. Special treatment. I'm going to make up words and I'm going to demand that you respect them. That's special
But
treatment.
it's
Nobody
just
else.
something stupid. I mean, you
That's the
allow a
point.
children to play. You allow a child to play with its
That is
favorite
his.
choice.
That is his exact point. Now these adults are being children and they're demanding laws be put on the books to enable them to continue to play make believe and not be insulted or drawn back to reality. That's a problem. That's a big problem.
What do you mean drawn back? How many people do you think have actually gone the
You
way?
are a toy. No, you are a man. You are. That's a biological fact. How dare you hit me with hate facts? All right, so hold on a sec. Okay, so there's I think it's the third clip. We're going to go to the third one right now. If you want to bring that up. Nope.
What's wrong with it, Amor?
Nope.
What's wrong with the avatar?
That wasn't it. I don't know what I don't know what you clicked on.
They were
Oh, okay.
playing.
All right, so it's supposed to be at 52 minutes even. There we go. Hey, that's nice. Go ahead and full screen that. Yeah, what is the sorry. She got us off track in the chat and then started talking about what we were talking about. Again. Let's see. Figured out what's wrong with that. Well, can't word it better than that. Okay, this is the workplace HR code that needs to address this, not the government and laws. So, do you think workplace HR code, is that a thing? Is that a universal thing that is written that's like, hey,
Why should it be universal?
No,
Why
it's
shouldn't
per.
It's per
probably
place.
like it's probably
Okay,
per
so
company policy.
when you go to work somewhere, they should be like,
Yeah.
sign this saying we're not going to call you your made-up gender, and you need to just know that. This is part of our policy.
Ugh. But should we have to make up a waiver for every new stupid thing they want?
If we're
I
going to
want-
allow their new stupid things, then yeah.
I don't
There
know.
is like that sign, that document that hangs up in just about every workplace that's like conspicuous location where it
Yeah, I've
says
seen
you
that.
cannot discriminate based off of like a list of things, and the last one's usually sexual orientation.
Bam. Dang it. I did that wrong.
We all
That's
know.
all right. Nobody saw.
No, I missed it. Sorry.
No, it was huge. It was
That's
so
all right.
embarrassing.
It was the curtain was raised. I'm gonna try this real quick. Okay, let's.
Owls are neat, yo.
I got shh. Do you want to be an owl?
Do you want to be an owl? I like it. A bow tie, that's cute.
Shh. Hey.
Oh, wait.
Keyboard is like machine gun.
I know. Okay, now we're back here. Let's see. Eckert says there are many work environments that do not allow extreme tattoos or piercings. Tattoos appear to be more permanent than made-up pronouns. Why can't banks and customer service places be legally ... required to look past things like tattoos or crazy colored hair? There's a lot of people who complain about that. That's a very good question.
That is a good question. Why can't anybody be legally required to do anything?
Like,
Hey, you have to
would
get a tattoo.
Would they have to put up a sign at like the teller's desk that is like my pronoun is? In case they have to, I have to talk to the manager. I tried to cash this check and he wouldn't. Oh no, it's not a he. Look at the sign. Ah! Yeah,
Would it normally
That's
go
a
like
pretty
that?
facetious situation.
of course it is. But realistically, if these people can't be bothered to suffer through some misgendering, do you think they would like just deal with it, or do you think they would start being like, "This is my gender. Do not assume." Interesting
I'll have
question.
to ask some.
Let's see. The avatar needs context. Floating there makes it hard to put a voice to it. He's sitting on the shelf. He's sitting on the shelf. How's he not floating there? He's got context. He is within. He's inside the box. He's got as much context,
Cute.
isn't it? Though.
I thought so.
Hold on. See.
Hey,
And it's talking with you.
big
It's a
eyes.
psychology of art thing. What is? Are we talking about the? Are we talking about the owl again, or are we back to talking about
Psychology of art.
psychology of? Hold on a sec. Yeah.
Never mind.
Okay. All right.
Back to the tattoos and crazy colored hair. There are workplaces such as Walmart, that are becoming more acceptable.
Walmart lets you have
Have that.
crazy tattoos. These are the crazy tattoos. Is that better? Oh, look at this. There we go. How's that?
So happy.
That's better. That's way better. Thank you. I cleared it
I
off.
like that.
I emptied the box. Wow, we have a demanding audience tonight. That's all right. I like it. Feedback.
was
This up
getting
here.
sleepy.
Let me studio mode. Doop doop.
That's me.
Okay, he is having way too much fun. I gotta put him in the little box down there. Every time I bring it up here, he's not in the box. Okay. Yes, actually, that does help. Good. All right, go ahead and play this clip.
And in my opinion, when we look to the provincial definitions set up by the commissions, we are enshrining the theory of a gender spectrum into the law. I'm wondering if you can comment on that.
That's exactly what we're doing. And I think that might even be more dangerous than, in my opinion, than the compelled speech issue, because the social constructionist view of gender isn't another opinion, it's just wrong. So, because, and I can tell you why that is fairly, I'll take 1 minute to do that. Well, the proposition that's instantiated, for example, in this particular visual, which is a good representation of the philosophy of the policies, is that there's no causal relationship between these four dimensions of identity, and that's palpably absurd. I mean, 98% of people, it's 99.7% of people who inhabit a body with a given biological sex identify with that biological sex. They're incredibly tightly linked. If you can't attribute causality to a link that's that tight, you have to dispense with the notion of causality altogether. And then of the people who identify, say, as male or female, who are also biologically male or female, the vast majority of them have the sexual preference that would go along with that, and the gender identity, and the gender expression. These levels of analysis are unbelievably tightly linked, and the evidence that biological factors play a role in determining gender identity is, in a word, overwhelming. There isn't a serious scientist alive who would dispute that. Now, you get disputes about it, but they always stem from, essentially, from the humanities. And as far as I'm concerned, I've looked at it very carefully. Those arguments are entirely ideologically driven. It's a tenet of the ideology that identity is socially constructed, and that's partly why it's been instantiated into law, because there's no way they're going to win the argument. But they can certainly win, let's say, the propaganda war, especially by foisting this sort of reprehensible advertising information on children, and that's part of the express intent.
I would add that the trans complainants have been covered under the existing grounds of sex before the tribunals across Canada. And as the Minister of Justice said, they are bringing this legislation in as a symbolic gesture. And so I leave it to you to question what that gesture may be. But
go ahead and pause that. So essentially, as we saw a couple weeks ago, some people, not serious scientists, but popular scientists, have been arguing that gender varies from sexual orientation, which varies from gender expression, which varies from physical sex chromosomes.
Making pizza?
Yeah, I'm varying all of the. I'm folding proteins to make a person. They're saying this varies wildly, and he says, over 99% of the people in these categories stick to the other categories. They are linked to a very tight degree, and yes, there are outliers outside of that. There are outliers outside of that, but as he said, if you can't make that kind of percentage, you can't call that causality, then you have to dispense with the idea of causality. If that isn't a causal relationship, then there's no such thing as a causal relationship. So he makes a very good point. They don't vary wildly. They vary very infrequently. And as he made the very good point, the reason they have to put this into law is because there's no scientific proof of it. It's not real. It's fake and it's wrong. And if they don't put it into law, then they have to actually argue the point. But once it is into law, then it is that's gross. That's sexist. How dare you say that these genders are... How dare you say there's no such thing as variance of these things? How dare you say that those are linked and there's causality? Take this man, find this guy for being so grossly intolerant, because it's now a thing. It's put into the law. It's policy. And if it wasn't, then people could actually actively argue and bring up good points and point out why that's a problem. And as the lawyer just said, they've already been covered. Technically, you can make these same complaints under the sex and sexual orientation protections that were in the law. The only reason they're doing this as a symbolic gesture, essentially, it's for appeasement. How frightening is that? So, lastly, I just want to... The very last clip, if you could... Hey, look, it's an L. If you can bring up that very last one. This is why it's important and why it's a problem for everybody, and why this sets a really, really bad precedent. All right. Go ahead and play that.
Parameters.
Okay, so let's assume that it is changing and contextual.
Yeah.
Okay, then why is conversion therapy a problem? See, this is what. See, the thing is that when I started opposing this bill, people immediately assumed that I was transphobic and racist and all these other epithets that they're perfectly willing to trot forth at a moment's notice. But you know, there's been a tremendous attempt to make conversion therapy for people who are gay illegal, right? And the proposition is predicated on the idea that the identity, the sexual preference identity, is not changing nor contextual. It's fundamental, and really what that means is that it's grounded in something like biology. It's okay, fine, let's scrap that, okay? Now it's going to be changing and contextual. Okay, then why can't it be changed with context? And so this is part of the problem with the policies, is they're so incoherent that they're going to work against the people that they're designed to protect. Now, people have a hard time believing I care about that, but you know, the fact that I've been called things doesn't mean that that's what I am. So, you know, a lot of people who have, let's call it a non-standard identity, the tightest argument they have for public acceptance of that identity is that it's powerfully constrained by biological processes that are beyond their voluntary control. So, instantiate this view of humanity, the social constructionist view of humanity, and you can wave those claims goodbye because they're completely they are at complete odds with the social constructionist viewpoint. And I think that's a big mistake. And I really do believe that that will backfire hard against the people who this legislation is designed to protect. If it's mutable, changeable, only subjective and transformable on a whim, then why should anyone have any respect for it?
Gentlemen, I'm gonna
Your thoughts?
That's a good point. that he
How
made.
could anybody disagree with it? What's the name of the bill again?
C-16.
No, the heartstring yanking one.
I don't know the Hold on, it was on a
It's like
previous
a bill to protect these minorities and
Yeah, it was a bill for like the protection of.
to maintain the dignity of trans people, something like that.
Let's see. Adds gender identity and expression to the list of prohibited grounds of discrimination. That's not what it said over here.
My whole point is, how could anybody disagree with that? Whatever the title is,
Yeah.
every time a government makes a bill, the title is the opposite of the result.
Yeah.
I
It's
don't
like
know how,
the
but
federal relief act or something like that, and it's really just like we're gonna give a lot of money to banks, which is probably gonna help maybe somebody other than the banks. We don't know.
Yeah.
But it's a relief act. It makes people relieved,
sure.
unless they know what's going on. Amor Pizza says, I identified as a wolf as a 6-year-old. Maybe I should question my identity and asking everybody. Maybe I should be questioning my identity and asking everybody to call me a wolfkin. This all makes me genuinely worried about what is messing with people's minds so much that they can seriously think of themselves in such a way and ask others to take it seriously. I identified as an alien when I was a kid. That's what the disembodied voice of Joe said in the chat. Do you currently identify as an owl? If not, we can find you something different. Who identifies as an owl? I'm trying to minimize your YouTube video. To your point, Amor Pizza, I heard in a different in an interview with Jordan Peterson him speculate that perhaps because children, at least millennials who were used to be children, did not have enough play and imagination time. That they did not learn how to do this and how to get past it and how to integrate this properly. And so parts of their brain are still trying to make believe and come up with these identities, as most people did as children, to make believe, because maybe they were in a school where, that make believe time was not made, or something or other to that degree. Because it seems
That sounds smeary.
well, it seemed we do have people who are asking for this. Why?
Who knows?
Well, that can you theorize any reason why adults would say these kinds of things and demand to be taken seriously.
They want attention.
They want attention. Well, there are lots of ways to get attention. This is kind of an extreme way to get attention, to make things up. It is easier to be to find some other reason that's already a reason to be oppressed, rather than make something up and try and convince people that they should respect it. There must be something in you that actually makes you want to believe this yourself, and to demand others do it is trying to convince yourself of this. But yes, there's a lot of desire to be unique and different, and the reason there are 70-something different gender identities right now is because every time somebody is one, somebody else has to go, well, I'm this, and somebody else, well, I'm not that, I'm this, and they're trying to find their uniqueness, which is speculating, but it's possible that's what's going on. Here we go. Yes, no.
I can see
It
that
just seems
as
like-
a possibility, not
That's
the
how-
defining factor.
I agree with Joe on that. I think it seems like everybody's in a contest to see who can be the most oppressed, and
Oh, man.
the
The oppression
smallest
Olympics is
minority,
real.
the smallest minority is the one who's capable of being most oppressed. So if I'm the 75th gender, then
Well, you know what the smallest
first
you know
most
what the
oppressed.
smallest minority is? The self.
Hey, you're right.
We are each unique enough to be in our own category. I am the only me. There are things that I have in common with you. There are things that all three of us have in common. There are things Joe and I have in common that you don't have in common. Hair color, IQ level.
Yeah.
Take that how you like it. But then, there are things that are only me. And so in order to identify with a group, there are still people who are as oppressed as me. Whereas if I am trying to be in a group all by myself, rather than be my own unique person with my own unique name, I have to go a step farther and be like, I am a thing. My very being is different than everyone else's, which,
Seems like that kind of mindset tends to lend itself towards the idea that the self exists to serve the community. That the self's needs, to a much greater degree than the community's needs at whole, should be sacrificed before those of the community would be voluntarily to help the individual. That's the whole idea behind the Soviet Union. Comrade.
Which is funny.
I just throwing that.
This
in
is
there,
coming
but-
from the same kind of people who protest wearing all the same thing behind. A group of students at McMaster University, when Jordan Peterson was invited there to speak, not about this topic, but about something about